Today we are going to look what's in the box. There is a printer in here, and I think because it's a wooden box, it's going to be an ELEGOO one. I have a suspicion what it is, so let's open it up. Well, it's already very interesting. The sticker of fragile, handle with care is on the inside. Great job. This is the big revealing. And we just received the ELEGOO Saturn Ultra 3. This is a very fast printer. I believe it's a 12K printer, which I believe comes standard with an ACF film. I have already tested the ACF. I have yet to release a video. There are some things that need to align for that, but I can already say that the ACF is really promising. Let's open up the box. Full disclosure, this is a fully paid for sample, so there is no sponsorship between me and ELEGOO, so I can be as unbiased as possible. Now I want to give a big thank you to Jamg He for providing their standard Pro resin lineup to test with this printer. So if you want to know more about this, maybe subscribe to the channel. We have some cardboard trim. Then there is a nice big foamy insert, and this houses what it seems to be a power line. This is for the EU. They have all sorts of power lines, so I guess that you will be just fine purchasing this. Inside we have a leveling card. Now I like to level on the FEP. I find it to be more consistent than leveling on some paper. And we have the user manual. And after reading it, this is just some basic understanding of the machine on how to level the machine, how to use the menus and all that. So maybe you want to read this. We have some more foam on all the sides. So this is a very well packaged printer so far. It is surrounded with about 2 to 3 centimeters of nice dense foam. So I would be very surprised if you get one that is broken out of the box. This is some major upgraded packaging. And now we see the first glimpse of the ELEGOO. And there we go. This is the Saturn Ultra 3, and this is the first resin printer that doesn't come in a nice metal enclosure like the ELEGOO Jupiter. That is standing right over there. If you want to see some videos about it, I have a whole lot of them. You can watch them right over there. So there is a twist tie underneath. We want to remove this twist tie. We have the top lid. This is a tinted black one. Now all the other ones that I have seen always come in some kind of an orange or a red color. This is a tinted black, so not sure if it is as good to block out the UV as the other colors. So this is the first box in the printer, and this is a toolkit. We are going to take a look at it after we removed everything. Then we have a huge bit of foam with this is going to be the top knot for the build plate, I think. Then we have our first looks of the build plate, and this is a much smaller build plate that I'm used to with the Jupiter. This is the flex plate of the Jupiter. This is almost the size of the build plate, and as you can see, yeah, there's quite a difference. So we have the build plate and we have the knob to turn it on. I'm going to set it aside. Then we have this little piece of foam. So the packaging is really great. Then the VAT, it looks to be some kind of an aluminum or a metal one. Then we have some turning wheels, and I have to say that the turning wheels feel kind of cheap. So this is a very thin knob. I'm going to grab one from the Jupiter. So this is the knob of the Jupiter. This is a nice beefy one, and this is the rod of the Saturn. And I have to say that I'm not really liking this plastic button. This one feels like a very solid plastic piece. This is some heavy duty plastic, and this feels more like an ABS thing that is going to, yeah, let go after a while. So not a big fan of this knob. And there we have it. This is the tank of the Saturn Ultra 3, and it is quite a bit smaller than the ELEGOO Jupiter, but now this is quite a nice size. You have to remember that this printer is in Belgium about 550 euros or about $4.99 in US dollars. The pricing on this seems to be very good. These printers used to cost a lot more. You get some ACF, you have a mono LCD, and they claim to have some major printing speeds. This is probably a die-cast aluminum frame. We have an ACF pre-installed into this film, and as you can see, we have some standoffs right on the corner, so if you put it on something like this table, you will not destroy the FEP. Then we have the printer, and I have to say the body to screen ratio, I really like it. We have a nice and huge screen. There is still a little foam in here. Let's remove it. The Z-axis seems to be inspired by the Jupiter, so we have a dual linear rail and we have one little ball screw. So this ball screw is a lot smaller than the ELEGOO Jupiter, but the ELEGOO Jupiter build plate is a lot bigger. This is going to do just fine. One thing that I'm really interested about is what the Z-wobble is going to be on this frame. If this is the same principle of the ELEGOO Jupiter, there was some Z-wobble on it on quite a few printers, I think. I bet I wasn't the only one. I'm very interested in how the Z-wobble will be on this one. So we have a step 1 sticker, so you can remove this, you can peel it off. But first we are going to power it on and we're going to raise the Z-axis. In order to do that, there is a DC jack right over here. So this is going to be to plug in the power. We have an on-off button, we have a USB port, and we have a Wi-Fi connection port to plug in an antenna, which is going to be in this toolkit. And we are going to look at it first. So this is going to be the toolkit. Probably there is going to be an antenna in it. We have some rubber gloves, always handy. Then we have the air purifier. So these are going to be the same as in the ELEGOO Jupiter. And if they are going to be the same, then they will be a huge disappointment. I have used these on my ELEGOO Jupiter and I found them to be very ineffective. Now this time, however, it seems like you don't have to pull it out to remove some plastic. They already pre-installed this little thing, and this is probably the main reason why it's not working that great. There's a little fan in it. This fan is way too weak to pull all the air inside of this out of this carbon filter, and yeah, this is really nice, honestly. So the carbon is housed in some plastic housing. It just slots in like this. So this will be a replacement part, so you can reuse everything. Now I hope they have upgraded the fan inside so there's more airflow. I will test it out and I will let you know. By the way, and if you were wondering where it plugs in, it's very easy. There is a USB port right over here. So you pull that little piece of foam out and you plug it in just like this, and now you have an air purifier. We have a little spatula. This one is actually a bit smaller than the one of the ELEGOO Jupiter. This is one that got delivered with the ELEGOO Jupiter, and this is the one that is delivered with this one. Then we have a little card in it. This is for the Voxel Dance Tango slicer. So in the ELEGOO Jupiter, they used G2 systems for the slicer. It's called G2 box. This time we have a lifetime card for the Voxel Dance Tango. One funny thing to know, that Voxel Dance Tango actually contacted me before I purchased this printer to do some paid content for them. I rejected it because I do not have the time or the understanding to test some slices. But as I already have a lifetime license from them to test it out, here you go, the first one that enters this code, you have a free license. Oh yeah, and if you are actually the one that took the license, please comment down below, give me a big thumbs up and let me know what you think about it. Then we have another USB flash drive. Now this is actually pretty funny. This is a Wi-Fi printer and they still included the USB flash drive. I guess there is some firmware on it. There is going to be some pre-sliced configs on it, so we are going to test it out soon. Then we have the power brick. This seems to be the same power brick of the ELEGOO Jupiter. So this power brick has an output of 24 volts, 7.5 amps and then 180 watts of juices that are going to come out of this. We have a little plastic spatula. This is to clean out the vat. I would just throw this away. This is going to scratch up your ACF and I would buy this instead. So this is a little rubber squeegee. This is very flexible and this is not going to scratch up your FEP. So if you have to choose between this, I think this was about $5 to purchase it. Throw this away and get you a rubber squeegee to clean out your vat. Then we have a random bag of nuts and bolts and we have some nice looking tools. Well, this is first. I have never seen them in this color, so this is very nice. And we have some other little bits and bobs. Not sure for what it is. It's probably some spare nuts and bolts if you lose them from the build plate or something like that. Then next we have a whole bunch of filters. Very nice. You should strain your resin every time you print. If you don't, you have to replace the ACF. And let me tell you something, that stuff isn't cheap. Then we have some carbon-ish looking mouth guards. This is to probably get you from dying from the resin. There is one idiot that does it. Now, not sure if this is going to be the way to be. You will probably need some mask or something like that. Or in my case, I have some ventilation in the shop and everything is well ventilated when I do some printing. Talking about safety, I recently purchased this device and this is a VOC meter with some other stuff in it. just to measure how toxic the air is around me. Now, VOC is a big name for a lot of different things. Not all VOC is super toxic, so there's a bit of a misunderstanding about VOCs. There are definitely some very nasty VOCs, but to give you an example, the people that are saying that VOCs are all super toxic and are going to kill you, now look at this. So the meter is now 0.85. So it's already displaying orange on top. So it's not super good. It's not that bad. If it's really bad, it's going to get to the red. So now we are in an orange region. So this means that we are not in the best healthy environment. Now this is because a lot of different reasons. First of all, we have a lot of off-gassing going on in the shed because I do my own painting. I do a lot of different stuff that off-gas some VOCs. So this shop has been ventilated for about 1 hour before shooting this video, and it's already back up to 0.85. Now this is a bottle of IPA, and watch when I open it up. So this is very volatile VOC, and you will see that just by doing this, this is going to explode in numbers. I have to try a look. So we are already up to almost 1 point. Yeah, we are 1.3. This is live, people. This is just a bottle of IPA. So if you are thinking about this number, it's going to kill you because we have major VOCs. This is just IPA and it's very volatile, and this is what it measures. Not all volatile stuff is going to kill you. So this is going to irritate your airways. So there is some negatives about IPA. But as you can see, we are now at 3.8 of a VOC number, and the little LED turned red. So that means that we are in a very unhealthy situation. Sound off in the comments and let me know what you want to see of my testing. And then we have the last little thingy, and this is going to be the antenna to plug into the printer, and we're going to do it right now. It's just as easy as screwing it in like this. So we have connected the power brick into the DC port, and now we are going to turn it on for the first time. And we see a little logo up front. So the printer is just starting up right now. So this is looking a bit different than the ELEGOO Jupiter. We have the print button and we have local file. So this is where if you transfer by Wi-Fi, this is going to be where it's stored. And then we have history. If we look at history, we can see they already did a test print of 8 hours and 56 minutes. So it looks like this has been checked out. Then we have tools. We have the Z offset, we have screen exposure, device self-test, tank clean, and manual. Manual will be to raise this. Then we have 0.1 mil, we have 1 mil, 10 millimeters, and 50 millimeters. If you select, in this case, 50 millimeters, you can see it will raise about 5 centimeters. Then to 0, we have back to 0, and this is a little rod right over here that will slide into the slot, and there's a sensor in here that will be used for zeroing the printer. So we're going to raise it quite a bit. Then the build plate. So there is a sticker on it saying that you have to press on the build plate. So with that they mean that if you're leveling it like this, you really have to press on it before you tighten these bolts. So reading this, we are going to remove the sticker, and we can see that the build plate has a nice and laser engraved pattern. So this will help promote for the resin to stick on it. Then you will slide it on like this. You cannot do it wrong. There's only one opening, and that opening should be facing this way. This is a plastic knob with a metal stud in it, and I think this will be just fine just to turn it on like this. So you can remove the build plate and leave the knob in. That will not be a problem. Now, one thing that I note is that the way that you slide on it, there could be some variation, but it will be only left to right. So there's a little bit of slop in it. So we are going to tighten it like this. We are going to loosen these bolts, and we will do some leveling. Now there is a film on it, and they are asking you to remove it, but it looks like a great screensaver. So I'm going to leave it on there, and we are going to re-level it using this little protector on it, which means we are going to install the VOD, and as you can see, the protective film is already falling off of it. Installing it will be as easy as just putting it on. There are 4 notches into the printer, and they are corresponding with these standoffs right here. I'm going to install these bolts. I still think that these little thingies are not very confidence inspiring, unfortunately. You want to loosen these 4 bolts, which is what I'm going to do right now. Now, this plate is probably calibrated by the factory, but I would suggest to not trust it and just redo the leveling as soon as you get the printer. Because the last thing that you want to do is crack your screen and having to ask for a new one. And I can tell you one thing, getting one for the ELEGOO Jupiter is not an easy thing, so I guess that getting one for this one will be the same trouble. You should be able to move this build plate up and down, and now we have to go back to the menu. Then we are going to go to the manual and then home to 0. Now it's homing, and if you didn't loosen the build plate, you will be having a bad time just crunching on the screen and potentially breaking it. It's done zeroing. Then the next thing you want to do is push on it with one hand and tighten the bolts with the other one using a cross pattern. So I'm going to start at the back one here, then go to the front right here, go back to this one and then go to the back one right here. As you can see, I am doing it on the ACF film and not on the cardboard cards, and we still can move the cardboard just ever so slightly, so leveling on the ACF doesn't seem to be a problem on this one. One thing to note about the ACF is that it's actually quite a bit thicker than the normal NFAB that you are using. So if you are ever going to change this FEP to an NFAB, I would not know why, because the ACF is just much more superior, then you will have to re-level it because the NFAB is a lot thinner than the ACF. Otherwise, it's the same. If you have a printer using NFAB and you want to change it up to ACF, then you will have to re-level it because the ACF is a lot thicker. Another thing that I have noticed is that there are actually 2 USBs. So we have one right over here and we have a second one right over there. You could actually use an air cleaner on either side of the printer, but remember that if you want to use these USB ports for anything else, this is a 24 volt USB port, so plugging anything else than 24 volts in it is otherwise going to destroy the main board because it's not made to power huge things like a heater, or it will destroy the 5 volt component that you are going to put in right here. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to put in the air cleaner. Then we have the tank clean. Tank clean is going to expose the complete screen, and this is to expose all the resin that is on the vat to clean it out. But you should strain your resin using the filters that they provide and not depend on the tank clean feature. It's also quite wasteful. But to demonstrate, we are going to start it, and as you can see, the complete screen is now lighting up in a nice UV hue. We can also stop it. One funny thing I have noted is that the ELEGOO air purifier is only working when this printer is actually doing something. Then we have screen exposure. So this is to check if your printer's screen is working correctly. So we are going to try it with a text. As you can see, we see the text on it, so the screen is working properly. We also have a grid pattern. We have checked the grid pattern also works. So it looks like the screen is doing its job just fine. And then we have full screen. So this is basically the same as the tank clean feature. So then we have the device self-test. We get green checks on everything. It checked everything without powering it. So it's not powering a fan. It's not powering the UV lamp. So I have no clue how they know that it works, but yeah, there is a self-test on it. Then we have systems. We have a language button. I'm going to look if there is any sort of Dutch on it. So we have Dutch, so everybody from the Netherlands and from my country in Belgium, we have Nederlands. And it seems like a whole lot of languages are supported on this machine. I like to use my machine in English. It makes it a lot easier to do some troubleshooting because everything that you're going to look up on the internet is going to be in English. Then we have the system settings, the voice format files, service, yeah, this is some generic stuff. Then we have version upgrade, network upgrade, but first we will have to connect this to Wi-Fi, and there we have the Wi-Fi button. So now it loaded all the Wi-Fi connections in my neighborhood, and I will connect to my Wi-Fi and get back to you. It looks like we are connected to the Wi-Fi, and we are going to check for version upgrade, network upgraded. Unsupported function. Great. So the upgrading by using the network is not supported on this printer. We got a little USB with the printer, so we're going to plug it in the side. and look if there are any files on it. The USB popped up, so USB file, and we have slicing software for G2Box, and we have software for the voxel dance one. So they are still supporting the G2Box one, and they added the voxel dance one. Now this is the one that interests me. We have the printing test, we have the ELEGOO chess, the quick test model, the Rook. So this is going to be very interesting because I have no clue what kind of settings they are using. Now, luckily, the resin that we are going to use, the Jamg He Standard Pro resin, should be just fine printing fast, because if we look at the LCD monochrome settings, we can see that there is a 2 to 8 second exposure time on it. So I guess they are going to be conservative on these files. We are going to pour in this resin and do a test print. But before all that, we still have to unwrap the lid. I'm afraid that this is going to be a huge fingerprint magnet, and if you are quite messy with your glass and the resin that's on it, this is going to get dirty very fast. I have seen enough videos and pictures to know that this is going to get messy very fast, and that's why I love the ELEGOO Jupiter. Everything is nicely contained in a metal box. The door seems to be with a little handle, so the only thing that is going to get dirty is the little metal handle on it. This time we always have to lift this thing up, and as you can see, if we have filthy hands, this is going to get dirty really quick. So if you want to do some ventilation on it, like I am going to do, then this will be perfect to get the nasty fumes out of it. Now let's do a little test fit. Yeah, looks to be working just fine. So my room is getting ventilated, and now it's time to start a print. Now I'm going to scoot this back to me. Like with anything else, you want to shake up your resin very well before pouring it in, because resin has the tendency to get separation of the resin. So there will be heavy parts in the bottom. Most of the time it's the color pigment that drops down. So you want to make sure that you give it a good shake before you pour it into the vat. I have a little razor blade because this has a kind of a lid that is really hard to remove. So I just cut into it. I already reviewed their regular standard resin. If you want to know more about the Jamg He resin lineup, you can check it right over there. Just to get back to the VOC, we are still at 1.01 on the VOC. So I'm going to let it hover a little bit to see what it does. Now, while I'm waiting for the results, I would like to ask your support. If you liked the video that I made today, then consider subscribing. Give me a big thumbs up and leave the special code down in the comments, and it's going to be pineapples. We have given it some time to get some nasty VOCs in it, and the number is 0.82. So the VOC that is giving off is close to 0. If we compare it with the IPA, it was huge. So leaving a bottle open seems to be not that nasty of a VOC. Now I have preheated this bottle a little bit, and we are going to pour it in, and let's start a print, shall we? We see that the exposure time is going to be about 2.5 seconds, which is going to be great for this resin. We have a bottom exposure of 30 seconds, and the model height is about 75 millimeters. So this is going to be a great test file to see if this printer is working just fine and if the resin does the same. Now I have put the mic next to the camera, and this is to show you how loud the machine is. And honestly, the sound is, it's okay. And it looks like we have a fail. Unfortunately, the print didn't make it. So it looks like we have something on the build plate. It's not the build plate that was the problem. It's probably going to be some kind of an exposure issue. The 2.5 seconds didn't do the job just right. So let's try to reset it and do it again. So the printer is done, and it took about 41 minutes and 51 seconds. Let's look what we have now. Now this is looking like a very good first print with the Jamg He Standard Pro resin, and this took only 41 minutes. So this is a great showcase on why you should calibrate your resins for the printer that you use. We were a bit underexposed probably, so that's why we had a failure. Now, adjusting the exposure, we had a perfect print, and it still only took 41 minutes, I guess it was. So this is a great result, and I'm looking forward to testing this machine and see what it's capable of. Now that I have a VOC meter, I will be able to do some testing on the carbon filter and see if this thing really does anything except for making some noise and look cool. I already have my little doubts about some things, like the build plate. I do not like the way I have to remove it to get on my prints, so I'm probably going to use some kind of a flex plate on it like I have with my ELEGOO Jupiter. I really like that flex plate. It is really easy to remove. You just snap it off and then you will be able to just flex it and the print should come off nice and easy. And now I have to stab it with some tools. Yeah, so there's definitely going to get some kind of a flex plate on it. I'm not a big fan of how the vat is mounted on there. I think they should have used something that could have latched on, just like I have on my ELEGOO Jupiter. There is something that is designed by you guys, and I really like it. I will link it down below if you have the ELEGOO Jupiter. And the problem is with this design, I don't see any solution to do it afterwards except for drilling in the casting. Now, one thing I noticed is that this lid does do a good job on holding in the fumes, so that is very nice. The downside is that if you remove the lid, all the fumes will be gassed out all at the same time. So it's probably going to be good to have some kind of a hookup, maybe a magnetic hookup, so you can vent it before you remove the top lid. So that's gonna be it. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this unboxing just like I did. And I want to thank Jamg He for providing the resin for me to test in this video. And if you want to know more about this resin, I have a video of all the resins right here. And this is going to be reviewed just like the other ones. And I will this time include the impact testing. Going forward, it will be standard in the testing. We only have one more resin that we still have to do a review about. This is the Sunlu red wax resin, so everything is printed. I still have to do the strength testing, and this will be the last resin that has no impact testing done on it. And before we close off, I want to give you some dead advice. If you are in the forums, and I mean the forums like a Reddit or a Facebook community page with these printers, there is so much toxicity going on these days, and I'm just asking that if you do not like the question, just ignore it, go on with your life. Do not bug the people that are asking questions, even if they ask it for the 1000th time, or if it's a stupid question. Just continue with your life, be kind to people, and do more printing.